I bet everybody was having fun that the arrival of Ole Miss Tuesday night when Tyler Barron and all that stuff happened. And you thought maybe we derailed the hype train. Nothing is stopping this train. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, I'm Stephen Willis, a former staff member at Ole Miss and a 10-year veteran of the national media at Yahoo Sports. Also did a little time at snowy WSMV in Nashville as well. Today on the show, we tell you about a freakishly athletic player that just committed to Ole Miss, and we say thank you so much to Derrick Nix for a 16 faithful year of service, and I hope you accomplish everything you want to, except when you play Ole Miss. As I mentioned, I'm Stephen Willis, and this is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're free and available on all the podcast apps and YouTube. Thank you for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day, and a special hello to the everydayers that make the show what it is. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. All right. Ole Miss got a huge commitment. We've been expecting this one for a couple of days. This was assumed to be one of the Sharks, and the moment that Cedric Blackshear committed to Texas, that kind of left by process of elimination. It was likely going to be Amorion Walker from Michigan. He is a 6'4" cornerback right now, which is kind of nothing to sneeze at. 6'4", about 190, 180 pounds. He got to Michigan at about 155 pounds, but he is a freakishly athletic player. He's from Ponchatoula, Louisiana. He actually wears number 1 at Michigan. And if you are familiar at all about that number at Michigan and the story of Anthony Carter and those players, Braylon Edwards, I believe they were that number as well. Number 1 is a big deal number for the Michigan Wolverines. And they gave it to Morian Walker, probably because of how freakishly athletic he is. I think he is known for having a 3-cone drill, and I understand that's a bad word to Ole Miss fans after the DK Metcalf thing, of about 6.1 seconds, which is like a full half second faster than the fastest 3-cone drill that's ever been run at the NFL Combine in its history. He also has, I think, the L drill that they run. He's right towards the top of that. He runs a 4.3 140-yard dash. We're talking about a freakishly athletic human being. And in the next segment, we're going to introduce everybody to Cedrick Beavers and kind of talk about the cornerback room and where it sits at the moment. But a big portion of that is Morian Walker, and is going to be Bryan Brown's job as the new arrival as the cornerbacks coach to get this guy up to speed so he can line up and play on the other side of Chris Graves or Cedrick Beavers or whoever is out there. There's also other players on the roster like John Saunders and Yam Banks that can play cornerback as well. But as it sits right now, those are the 3 main ones. Now, when we talk about Pete Golding and what he's building defensively, and especially at the cornerback position, running is of the utmost importance. And one of Pete Golding's favorite thing to do is to take cornerbacks, figure out if they can run, and if they pass that test, they pass that muster, they will stay at corner. But if they don't, they'll just get moved to inside to safety. And we saw like John Saunders and Dejon Anthony and a bunch of players kind of produce at that corner position inside. Almost it's a husky, it's a slot corner. It involves not as much running as on the outside, but you have these 3 main ones. I do not think that Ole Miss is through adding. I think Ole Miss is going to constantly be looking for that. I think Ole Miss is going to be looking at another cornerback potentially and another offensive lineman. And of course, they're shopping for a running back. Those are probably the 3 positions that you need to watch for. Now, everybody's going to ask, are they going to replace Tyler Barron? And that is possible, but they don't have to. And I did this on my live stream when I broke it down. I've thought from the beginning, and if you watch this show for any period of time and heard me talk about it, these are the 4 players that I assumed were going to be starting. And that is Princely and Mommy Ellen, Walter Nolan, JJ Pegues, and Jared Ivey. No matter what happened and who got brought in the transfer portal, those are probably the first 4 players on the field. Now, in the interior defensive tackle positions, you have players like Akello Stone. You have players like Xavion Harris. And you have the players that Ole Miss brought in their top 5 defensive line recruiting class out of high school as well. The big winner in the Tyler Barron situation, I think, might be Camarion Franklin. Somebody that could position to play a little bit of end. He can line up there and learn from Jared Ivey and be ready to step in year 2 and ready to go. That is my thought. You could also see the emergence of some certain players like DJ Holmes might step up. Everybody remember him? He's still there. Now, Ole Miss is still teaching him and molding him and all that. He played behind Cedric Johnson, some other guys. TJ Dudley played that position in the bowl game, but it might be a situation where you see DJ Holmes rise up as well. But we're talking about cornerback right now. I go straight back to defensive line. This is the reason that whenever I think it was Monday's video talking about the importance of Bryan Brown being hiring, that's why. Because even me, it's easy for me to go down to this front 7. This front 7 is going to be such a big piece of this team in 2024. Everybody knows that. It's the back end that needs to get taken care of, and that's the importance of Bryan Brown. And him helping to organize defense with a back 4, back 5 in mind is going to be a great assistance to Pete Golding, who looks at that front 6, front 7 and is like, okay, let's fish. Let's go. But Amorion Walker, super freakishly athlete. He was on Bruce Feldman's freaks list because of that 3-cone drill and all the stuff that he can do athletically. I think he was like 7th or something like that on the freaks list. It is a big deal to get somebody. And like I said, everybody knows my theory about single numbers and Michigan giving him number 1 that says something. And whether you want to admit that it does or not, it does. And we'll see exactly how it goes. Bryan Brown's got his work cut out for him because him, Cedrick Beavers, and Chris Graves, 2 of them are going to be the starting corners. One's probably going to be a rotation guy if they don't sign another one. They probably do need to find one more. And we don't know what's going to happen with Taz Nicholson. There's rumors floating around right now. And that's kind of stemming from an academic type situation, maybe. That's what the rumor is anyway. So we'll see exactly how that goes. Just know that cornerbacks, and you can tell Pete Golding is doing this as well. Super athletes are being recruited. And when we look at Cedrick Beavers, you can see that athleticism, the smoothness, and the ball skills to where I'm not convinced that Cedrick Beavers isn't going to be the field corner next season. I think he has that kind of range. He is that typical Mississippi junior college cornerback that we remember from 15, 20 years ago, back when JUCO recruiting was a big deal. Whenever we'll talk about him in just a second. But first, I do want to say thank you for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen of the day. We're just getting started. We get to know Ole Miss signee Cedrick Beavers and look at the cornerback room as a whole. Passion, drive, and patience, what brings home the winning trophy, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. And with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay's Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. At the start of the new year, every small business is asking themselves the same question. What's the one move I can make that will take my business to the next level in 2024? LinkedIn Jobs knows that your success all depends on the team you surround yourself with. That's why LinkedIn Jobs has created the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn just isn't another job board. It's a vast network of more than a billion professionals, which makes it the absolute best place to hire. Hiring's easy when you have that many qualified candidates. So easy, in fact, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. You know, setting goals for 2024, you listen to this podcast, everything is about making the 12-team playoff. So why would it be different at a business? They're setting goals as well. And if you hire the right team member, it's going to be easier for you to accomplish those goals. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number one in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn also knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and they might not have the time or resources to hire. Thankfully, with LinkedIn, the process is intuitive, quick, and easy. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows that cover every single league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. All right, let's talk Cedrick Beavers. Let's talk Chris Graves. Let's talk the cornerback room as a whole. And let's just straight go to the highlights on Cedrick Beavers right now. And the first thing you notice from Cedric is how smooth of an athlete moving back and forth is. And when you look him up, you can see he's from Taylorsville, Mississippi. And if you're from Taylorsville, Mississippi, odds are you can play football. And Cedrick Beavers has gone to Jones County Junior College. I think they're still junior college. I think they were the lone holdout for the longest time. But that smoothness is on the display. And if you look at the ball skills, at the way he is playing the cornerback position with the confidence to where he can stay, he has enough confidence in his athletic ability to stay with the receiver and keep an eye on the quarterback. That's insanely hard to do because if you take your eyes off something, how many times do you see it disappear? But Cedrick Beavers does a really good job of keeping an eye on that quarterback and is able to make plays because of his athletic ability. Now, this is Mississippi junior college football. This isn't SEC football, so there is going to be a transition at the next level. But more and more as I watch this, you see a situation to where you just think that this is a typical Mississippi junior college type defensive back that we remember for 20 years ago. We all remember, heck, even go back 10 years ago with Tony Bridges, and before then it's like Fred Smoot. It seemed like every year a player like this was coming out of the Mississippi JUCO ranks to where they might not have qualified or their athletic ability wasn't quite developed, and all of a sudden they hit a spurt their freshman year, junior college, and all of a sudden they were a player. That is the situation that is happening with Cedrick Beavers. Unbelievably smooth player. Smooth. Absolutely. And you can see his ability to match up in the open field as well. I don't know if he'll be the field corner. I don't know if he'll be the boundary corner. That is going to depend on how he matches up at the next level. Him and Chris Graves, because Chris Graves actually started against Georgia. Last year, Pete Golding had to go the G5 route on defense. And Ole Miss's defense was good. They did a decent job of it. But there was one game over the course of the season where they were completely outmatched. Well, really two. Those two games that were completely outmatched on the outside. Against LSU, they had Bryan Thomas and Malik Neighbors to cause all kinds of problems. Ole Miss couldn't man up on them because if you did that, that would be turning your back to Jaden Daniels, and he'd run for 200 yards. So that matchup was a problem for Ole Miss defensively. That wasn't necessarily a situation where you just got out talented. It was something that the alternative scared you more than this actually happening. So that caused Ole Miss to play a little bit of zone defense as well. Against the Georgia Bulldogs, though, was a situation where Ole Miss got outmatched on the outside. they really got outmatched on the outside. And they could not play man coverage. Even when you had a quarterback like Georgia had, that you didn't really have to worry about him running. You couldn't even run any two-man because you would just get meshed to death. The mesh concept is directly crossing routes over the middle where they run close to each other, or they do some simple things that athletic abilities allows them the ability to get free on. And you had, several great players like Dominic Lovett, Ra Thomas were on that team. Ladd McConkey was basically uncoverable throughout his career. But Ole Miss was not able to match up man-to-man, which means that Georgia had soft boxes to run the football in. They could kind of out-scheme it. They could outflank the defense, and they could do basically whatever they wanted to do because Ole Miss's front seven and secondary wasn't quite up to snuff. This offseason, Ole Miss has fixed the front seven. Be absolutely positive about that. Ole Miss fixed the front seven. Ole Miss needs to fix the secondary, and the way they do that is through super athletic cornerbacks. Chris Graves, who started that Georgia game, is one of those such cornerbacks. Morian Walker, definitely one of those such cornerbacks. Cedrick Beavers, also one of those cornerbacks. And if anybody else comes in, they'll probably fit that mold as well. So take heart, Ole Miss fans, for knowing that Cedrick Beavers, who we forget, is a JUCO player coming in. A lot of people forget about that, but JUCO players are signed to play immediately. This isn't a developmental piece. This is designed to get him on the field. And Ole Miss signed a linebacker from Jones County for the same reason. So don't forget about either one of those players, but that's three people, kind of a rotation developing at the cornerback position. Now, B. Brown's got his work cut out for him because he's got young guys everywhere on defense. Not a lot of experience at the cornerback position for Ole Miss right now. So it's going to be on B. Brown and on those safeties to kind of help them out to make that defense better and the front seven to not give the quarterback enough time to throw the football and force some mistakes as well. So it should be interesting, but big time player, Cedrick Beavers for Ole Miss. Still more to come on Locked On Ole Miss, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Derrick Nix has left Ole Miss after 16 years. We thank him, explain what happened, and talk about where we go next. The NFL regular season has wrapped up and they're in the playoffs, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is so easy to use, and there's so many different ways to bet, like same game parlays. You can pick different aspects of the same game, lump them together, and make your own parlay. And if you're not as creative like I am, you can go to the Explore tab and find specific bets that you might not be thinking about. Or they have a parlay hub in the same vein to where you can go in there and find the most popular parlays as well. They have so much more as well as that. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, it's an official partner of the NFL. Thanks for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen of the day, and shout out to the everydayers. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every single league. For your second listens, go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 stream channel. Be part of history. All right, Derrick Nix moved on to the next phase of his career after a 16-year stint that somehow survived Houston Nutt, Hugh Freeze, Matt Luke, and into Lane Kiffin. All of those coaching changes, Derrick Nix somehow survived it like he is the freaking Terminator and made it through. But here's the thing you need to know about Derrick Nix. He was a faithful servant for Ole Miss, and I am proud of him for what he is doing to move up to the next level of his career. He deserves it. You will not find a better human being on the planet than Derrick Nix. Do not have anybody bad mouthing him, nobody besmirching him. Understand that he is a great person and he will always have a home in Oxford, Mississippi at the end of his coaching career. He is a part of the fabric of Ole Miss football over the last 2 decades, and that should not be forgotten. So thank you very much for that. Now, that said, this was the tweet that was put out by Ole Miss football before it was announced by Auburn, by the way. That's key to know, okay? It says, we are so grateful for Coach Nix and express the gratitude to Derrick and his family for their invaluable contributions and dedication to the success that we've achieved at Ole Miss, as in 29 wins in 3 years. Acknowledging the opportunity to become a first-time play caller with full-time play calling duties as offensive coordinator at Auburn University, we extend our sincere well wishes to the Nix family in this endeavor. We will begin the search for a new wide receivers coach immediately with the objective of finding the best fit to coach the top wide receiver room in America. That is hilarious. There is no doubt that that's hilarious. And let me explain why that is hilarious. These are some rumors. Now, this Auburn situation, if you've been on our Discord and asked about it, I honestly said that eventually this was going to get done and he was going to end up at Auburn. That's just the way it looked. Everything fit like that happened. Everything that I've heard fits that narrative. So it became a matter of when, not if. Well, the rumor that came out about what was going on is something in Derrick's contract, the language of it, and it required him to be a play caller, the actual offensive coordinator, not just a title. Leave for an offensive coordinator. I don't know what the language is. It might require a buyout if that didn't happen. And Auburn sent over probably multiple offers for that to change the language up to make it seem like he was the primary play caller. He was the only candidate on Auburn's board. That never changed. That kind of lets you know what was going on. So Lane Kiffin started trolling Auburn because all that language that Lane knew what the contract supposedly said, he knew that wasn't the case. And he found things with Hugh Freeze talking about taking back play calling that he's done over the last month, honestly. And so that is the reason for that. That is the reason for all this playful trolling and all of that stuff. I wish Derrick nothing but the best. And this is a situation, if we're going to be honest about what's going on, he was the assistant head coach at Ole Miss. Now, remember that as well. You have a situation where the Ole Miss had a co-offensive coordinator position open for a month. That didn't go to Derrick, and it looks like it wasn't even an option to go to Derrick. I don't know that to be the case, but it was there, and he was there, and nothing happened. That's still open. Now he's going to go over there and take that next level in his career that he could not get in Ole Miss. And this is going to sound like I'm being derogatory towards Auburn. But sometimes you have to take a step down to get up. And right now, where Ole Miss football is a way above where Auburn is. Auburn has not won more than 6 games this decade. They just had their most embarrassing loss potentially in their history. That all happened. Now, there's some hope for the future, and they're going to be pretty happy about it. But Hugh Freeze is pretty well known, has a small Rolodex. And if you look at coaching candidates, when all of this popped up, when the offensive and defensive coordinator popped up, it was Derrick Nix at offensive coordinator again. And then all of a sudden you saw Chris Kiffin. And it won't be, if there's a wide receiver coach that's needed, you're going to see Grant Hurd. They might dust off Dave Womack for all I know. But the Rolodex is not big. And that should concern the heck out of Auburn fans. If you're just looking at it, I'm not saying that Derrick is a bad coach. Derrick is a very good coach. Derrick needed to go there because he couldn't get it here. If he could get it here, he would not be there. And Auburn fans are going to act like it was some kind of thing, but that's not the case. And deep down, they know that that's not the case. So we'll see what's going on. Now, Ole Miss in that room, replacing Derrick Nix. What do? Do you go and get a Damian Craig, who supposedly is available, who was the Texas A&M wide receiver coach last year? Do you go and find, I don't know, a Shea Hodge or a Mike Espy? Give them a chance on the field. Or do you promote Kelvin Bolden, who the rumor already happened that he was going to get the tight end job, just so he gets an on-field role as well? Kelvin Bolden, I think, played wide receiver at USM. Good football player. He understands what's going on. He understands that position. It kind of makes sense. And if you look at what made Derrick Nix so valuable to Ole Miss over the years, you basically have replaced that with Kelvin Bolden. Kelvin Bolden has become what Derrick Nix was as far as in-state recruiting and stuff like that. And go to the tight end. We've all heard rumors about Joe Cox potentially at the tight end position. I do know that I do not fret Lane Kiffin making a coaching hire even a little bit. Even if I'm just completely off base with what I think is going to happen, there's still going to be good coaches that get brought in. I don't know that Lane Kiffin has made a bad hire since he's been at Ole Miss. Now, he's made some one and dones. There might be some bad fits, but nobody's complained about how good the team is or how the effort is in that room and stuff like that. You don't hear those things. The closest you got to it was with Jake Thornton, and Jake Thornton ended up leaving. So we will see how it goes. Now, it makes sense. The rumor that I heard, and like I said, again, rumor, was that, let's see, I guess this was 10 days ago, something like that, was Derrick Nix to Auburn, and that it was going to be Kelvin Bolden and Joe Cox. So that's what I'm hanging on, because I've heard no additional names. Some might very well pop up. And I am very intrigued at the idea of like a Mike Espy or a Shea Hodge or a Dante Moncrief. Maybe you bring Dante Moncrief in as an analyst, something like that. All I know is whoever is going to get their hands on this wide receiver room is going to be a star at the end of this year. It's guaranteed. This wide receiver room is going to be the best in college football. And you heard Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss football say the exact same thing in their notification of Derrick Nix going to Auburn. Whoever gets this wide receiver room is walking into the top wide receiver room in all of college football, with Trey Harris, with Jordan Watkins, with Juice Wells, with Deion Smith. Those guys, Aiden Williams, player after player after player. And I'm excited to see where they're going to go. But congratulations to Derrick Nix. I'm very proud of you. I'm going to root for you at all times, except when you're playing Ole Miss, buddy. Take care, and we'll see you around. So, thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen. Every day as we continue to turn our attention to the portal as it's set to wrap up in about a week and a half. For your second listen, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every single league. For your second listen, go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 stream channel. For those of you on YouTube, we'll send you there right now. Hotty toddy, everyone.